Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And first on our agenda, I will acknowledge that all board members are present with the exception of Calvin Corridors and Chuck, who are excused, and Larry, who we think may be joining us momentarily here. So I will first entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the March 28, 2019 meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, Joe, report from the secretary.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
I'm pleased to report that we did the final bond closing on April 10th.
Great.
The funds are in the bank.
Good.
We have correspondence from Mr. Giardine.
Okay.
And we also have the 2018 annual report of the JSCB, which is produced by the Turner Company. And it's in your package for review and
Great.
any questions. And that completes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe? All right, let's move on to a report from our program manager. Chris? Turn that mic around.
I see that here. Maybe I'll just turn the whole thing. No. Good?
Morning.
Morning, how are you guys?
Doing great.
Sun is out, right?
Right.
Feels good for a change?
Yep.
Stay tuned, though.
Right.
So this morning you have the report in front of you. Highlight a few things for you just in terms of where we are. I'll start in that upper right under project status summary. Corcoran and Nottingham both are kind of moving along at the same trajectory there. We were able to get a contract in place, fully executed contract for Corcoran. Nottingham will follow here shortly. It's in the GC's court for signature. Plan is there that they start to mobilize in May, get some things over to the site, start to get their plans set up in terms of getting base camp set up, and then advance that work in June as school allows here and as classes start to come to conclusion. And just as a reminder, both of those projects are two of our longest. They're going to entail 3 summers worth of work.
Wow.
So we've got a fair amount in front of us with both of those projects there. And but the phasing plan has been talked through. Administrators and folks in the building understand what we're doing and how we're going to do that, and so we'll start to put that into motion.
But that work is ongoing during
Yeah,
the
plan,
school year.
Right. That whole plan was based upon a phased construction, so that we have developed some swing spaces and the ability to move folks in and out of different spaces as we occupy. And again, that was coordinated through the building administrators, and so they understand how that's going to work.
And is that swing space on site?
It's within the building, right?
Within the building.
We're not occupying
Yeah.
trailers or anything like that. It's
Okay.
all being accomplished within the building.
Great.
Yep. On the Fowler site, I think most people are aware of that, but we had 2 pieces of good news. The band financing was approved by Common Council, so we were able to move forward with that. In concert with that, we received the long-awaited approval from SED to increase our incidental allowance for that work, so that we can move that forward along, and we will be doing that. Documents are currently on the street and out to bid. We have a bid date of the 23rd of this month, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
And see how things come together.
Working hard to make sure bids come through the door?
Trying to drum up the competition, yep, and trying to get the interest there so that we have good participation.
Good.
So, on the permanent finance component, as Joe mentioned, the T2A was secured, so moving forward with that. And anticipate the process for that final phase of the financing, that T2B is what we're referring to it, for the Danforth, the Clary, the Henniger, the Elms, and the Fowler interior, that process will begin the 3rd quarter of this year. That we have to run through the series of approvals between school board, JSCB board, Common Council again, and then also in concert with that, a resubmission of the comp plan to OSC for approval. So that process will start in the 3rd quarter and move forward towards that financing ultimately in the 1st quarter of 20. So that'll be moving along. Training class has started. I just wanted to bring that up. It started April 1st. We currently have 18 students in the class, and that's moving forward towards a completion on the 17th. And we're doing the component this time is slightly different. We have a different training provider. It's still through
EOC.
Tim Penix's group at EOC, but Otis Jennings was involved in the training on this component. and they're employing a little bit more hands-on component in addition to the classroom piece. So from what I'm told, that's doing well. I'm going to sit through I'm going to go over and visit one of the classes here that'll be coming up in the next couple weeks. But moving forward well. Project design and approval status, Henniger is our last one. Still going through a few iterations there with SED. Had a new project manager come on that's belabored the process a little bit, not intentionally so, but nonetheless bringing a new project manager up to speed on a few things and still pushing that through.
At SED.
At SED, yes. It's been there for a bit. It's our last one. And so there's a couple different views from the new folks that are involved, things that they've been asking, things that they've been questioning a little bit, and there's some changes. So we still have to put that, the anticipation is that by the end of May, we have that kind of come back together so that we have the approval in place and we understand more fully what the cost impacts are or aren't to that, and then have some discussion there. So kind of in concert with that, I wanted to also explain to you that in this, I'll just jump over to my center box under the constraint box, the last item, comprehensive plan budgets. At the end of May, we'll have received bids for Fowler. We'll have Henniger, we're hoping, approved and understanding the total impact of where Henniger is financially, in concert with looking at several of the other projects that are getting closer to completion. And it's going to be a bit of a comprehensive regroup on where are we budget wise, and excuse me, what will come out of that is probably some reallocation between buildings in terms of budgets. So just kind of letting folks know that. I don't have specifics to that effect yet, but looking at where we stand with construction contingencies on each of the jobs, where we stand with budgets on each of the jobs, there'll probably be a little bit of a reshuffle there a little bit in terms of a reallocation that makes sense to put us in a position to move forward well with the T2 projects. So just wanted to kind of paint that picture a little bit. And so end of May will be another step in the right direction here to start to bring things down a little bit so we can see it. Testing.
Glad I was not aware of that. Okay, good to know.
We don't have to leave, I don't think.
Who's in charge here? Okay.
Beyond that, on the construction side, we're moving forward with Fraser. We had some work that we accomplished over the break, really trying to hone that in and bring that to closure. We're getting much closer on that in terms of financial closeout of that project. Blodgett's continuing, exterior and interior, in terms of the work that's being done there. Grant, same thing. We're in a position now where you're starting to, if you've been by there, see the precast going back on the building. So we're starting to rebuild that exterior. It'll start to look like something again on the outside. Ed Smith, we're continuing to watch that one, as I said, closely. They are behind schedule currently in terms of where we want them to be. We've amplified efforts across the board once again, and we're meeting, the construction manager is meeting with them weekly to kind of continue to push there on all fronts, because there's, it's an area that we've got our eyes on. So,
how likely is it that they'll be done by the opening of the school year?
I'll know more shortly, Pat. I don't want to not answer your question. How likely is it that we're concerned? They're behind. The data says they're behind. He's committed, the GC's committed in saying that he's going to amplify efforts. He's going to continue his efforts and focus to get there. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic, and say we're going to keep eyes on it. So it is. Bellevue, on the other hand, I will say we've seen a pretty intense effort at Bellevue, and that's coming along well. They've shown great progress over there. The first floor is in really, really good shape in terms of completion. The lower level is the one that's been lagging a little bit, and predominantly due to getting some mechanical equipment into the building. That's the area that we're focused on, is making sure that we get the mechanicals in, because that has to be in place before we can start putting ceilings in and finishings in. But that one is, I'm happy with the progress that's being made over there with that. I think there's a real concerted effort. So Fowler Roof, we've just started that, mobilized over there and have started some work. Again, that'll run through the summer into the fall. A pretty extensive roof project is what I should say, not intrusive, but pretty extensive roof project.
So can I ask you, if they're starting the Fowler roof now, Will that be disruptive to the students' learning?
Excuse me.
No, we've planned to, so that it doesn't do that. That's again, it's that phased piece of where do we work and when do we work type of thing. And they're doing that, and it is all on the exterior. So I mean, it is all on the roof. So it's not as if we're going to be inside of the building, you know.
Maybe they're not gonna be distracted by pounding and,
That, again, we've worked through
Okay.
what area you're going to be in when, so that coincides. Obviously, with the prerequisite that if that becomes a problem, then we have to readjust, so. Under constraints and critical issues, the T2 borrowing, I think we spoke to that a little bit, that will be coming back. That'll start probably in August and then run its course through the fall in terms of the series of approvals that we have to get that we mentioned before. The Fowler site work, I think we spoke to, that we have the approval there to move forward on the ban and with the SED. Ed Smith and the grant, as I said, we're watching those closely. Let's see, and then utility coordination, we're still working with National Grid. It's a little bit of a challenging process there to get easements in place and get approvals in place, but we're working through it. And then the comprehensive plan budgets, as I said, once we get Fowler bids in, are received, and a few of these other projects are getting closer to the finish line, we'll reassess and then make that regroup. So
what is your concern on grant?
just that there's a fair amount of work this summer. We're going back in and doing more toilet rooms. We're going to do the roof over there. We're going to do some windows over there, and it's it's the contractor that we have at Ed Smith. So I'm just concerned about performance.
So you're not concerned about them completing it in time, you're concerned about their performance there?
I'm concerned about the performance to enable them to be complete. Yeah, the focused efforts that it's going to require for that. So, but we're working closely with them on that, and hopefully have a better. We're going to learn from our previous engagements on the toilet rooms in terms of making that better. That kind of covers the items that I had. Questions, comments?
I think we're good. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. We have a report on our financial statements. Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
I am going to cover the financial statement that was given to you in your packet. If you want to follow along with me, I'm going to start on page 5 to cover the reports. Everything in the first pages is just a description of what's on the reports that I'm going to cover. On page 5, we have the statement of net position, and this shows at the end of February that we had a total of $92.7 million of cash in Phase 1 and Phase 2 accounts. Also included is $162.2 million of capital assets. The capital asset amount does reflect closed projects up to current. Compared to the January statements, cash did decrease by $4.6 million due to the vendor payments approved by the board, and also we did receive $157,000 in investment income. The total liabilities at the close of February was $225 million, and that does include both Phase 1 and Phase 2 bond payments, along with the bond anticipation note that is currently outstanding for Phase 2 projects. So at the end of February, we had a total of $29.8 million in net position. I'm going to move on to page 6, the statement of sources and expenditures. And this one shows, it shows up to, right up to February 28th. So in Phase 1, the year-to-date sources through February reflects the receipt of pass-through New York State funding from the district for debt service payments, along with the JSCB subsidy payments that I reported both in November. Also, the expenditures through February show the debt service and interest payment, along with the transfer out to the district, which again I reported back in November. Phase 2 year-to-date sources through February is $1.1 million in interest earned on investments. And the year-to-date expenditures through February total $31.7 million, which increased by $4.7 million from the January statement due to vendor payments. The debt service interest payment was made and reported back in November as well. And I'm going to move on to page 7. And this is our cash flow statement. This report shows the sources and disbursements on a cash basis that flow through all of the JSCB accounts. Actual figures are provided for July of last year right up until February, and the projected amounts are included up to June of 2019. Just as a side note, you'll notice there in April that we show the projected bond proceeds and the costs associated with it. I will talk about those final amounts come April when I can verify those amounts for sure, because they'll show up in the bank statements, okay? But this just gives you a general idea of what we did take in bond proceeds. Also, this cash flow does reflect that we should have about $146 million left in JSCB accounts at the end of June 2019, which is the end of our fiscal year. And then page 8 shows the total revenue and expense inception to date. That's from the very beginning for both Phase 1 and Phase 2, right up until February 28th. And our total sources for Phase 1 is approximately $144.2 million, and Phase 2 is approximately $133 million. That's without this is as of February 28th, so you won't see the bond proceeds in here that we just closed on. And the total expenses for Phase 1 is $141 million, and the total expenses for Phase 2 is $46 million. Are there any questions? No?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, looks like we have 4 resolutions. Joe, you want to walk us through them?
Yes, and before I do, just a quick update. Landon and Ryan will be presenting next month.
Oh, great.
They had a scheduling conflict this month.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Welcome. So yes, we have 4 payment resolutions, beginning with resolution number 19, which would be the payment to Landon and Ryan.
So moved. Do you have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And we have resolution number 20, which would be the payment to the Turner Construction Company.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And resolution number 21 would be the payments for the Tranche 1 contractors, which are set forth in the appendix.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And finally, resolution number 22 would be the payments for the Tranche 2 contractors, which are also set forth in an appendix.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
That completes our resolutions for today.
Great. Any additional business to come before the board? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
How about a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.